How to talk in English. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's useful session at English Great Stories channel, your go-to resource for improving your English speaking, listening, and communication skills. Whether you're a beginner who's just starting or an advanced learner looking to polish your skills, this session is designed to help you become a confident English speaker. In today's session, we're going to dive deep into one of the most crucial aspects of learning English, how to talk in English. We'll cover everything from basic tips for beginners to advanced techniques that even seasoned speakers can use to enhance their fluency. So, grab your notepad and get ready, because we're going to explore the art of speaking English in a way that's engaging, practical, and most importantly, achievable for you. Talking in English can be daunting, especially if you are not used to speaking it regularly. For many of us, English is not our first language, and it often feels intimidating when we try to express our thoughts in it. But here's the good news. Speaking English is not about being perfect. It's about being clear, confident, and most importantly, communicative. In this session, I'm going to share with you proven strategies and step-by-step methods that will help you talk in English more fluently, no matter where you are on your language learning journey. I'll start by introducing some common challenges that English learners face when it comes to speaking, such as fear of making mistakes, lack of vocabulary, and not knowing how to structure sentences. Then I'll guide you through practical solutions, real-life examples, and some personal stories that illustrate how you can overcome these obstacles. By the end of this session, you'll have a concrete understanding of how to improve your English speaking skills and communicate more effectively. Let's move to the important tips one by one. Understanding the fear of speaking. Let's start by addressing one of the biggest hurdles that learners face when trying to talk in English. Fear. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of being judged. Fear of sounding foolish. It's something that almost every English learner has experienced at some point, and it's completely normal. But it's also one of the main reasons why many of us struggle to speak fluently. Let me tell you a story to illustrate this. I remember a student of mine named Maria. She was from Brazil and had been studying English for years. She could read and write well, but when it came to speaking, she would freeze up. She was so afraid of making mistakes that she barely spoke at all in our English classes. One day during a speaking exercise, Maria didn't say a word. After the class, she told me, "John, I'm just so scared of saying something wrong." Now let's pause for a moment here. Does this sound familiar to you? If you're nodding your head, you're not alone. The fear of making mistakes is one of the most common barriers to learning any language. But here's the thing. Mistakes are not a sign of failure. They are a sign that you are learning, growing, and pushing your boundaries. I explained to Maria that every time she made a mistake, it was an opportunity to learn something new. I encouraged her to speak more, even if it wasn't perfect, and I promised her that no one would judge her. After a few weeks of trying, Maria's confidence improved dramatically. She went from barely speaking a word to participating actively in class. The transformation was incredible, and it all started with embracing her fear rather than avoiding it. Building a strong foundation. The basics of speaking. Once you've accepted that mistakes are part of the learning process, the next step is to build a strong foundation in your speaking skills. This foundation consists of three main elements: vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Let's break these down one by one and look at how you can improve each of these areas to make your English speaking clearer and more effective. 1. Vocabulary. Expanding your word bank. Vocabulary is the bread and butter of speaking any language. Without the right words, it's difficult to express what you want to say. However, many learners get stuck because they think they need to know thousands of words to speak English well. The truth is, you don't need a massive vocabulary to start speaking confidently. Even a basic set of words can help you communicate effectively if you use them well. For example, think about a child learning to speak. They don't know many words, but they use the few they know repeatedly in different contexts. Similarly, as an English learner, you can start by mastering a small set of high-frequency words and phrases, and then build from there. Focus on learning words that are most commonly used in everyday conversations. A great way to do this is by categorizing words into topics that are relevant to your daily life, such as food, travel, work, and hobbies. For instance, if you work in an office, learn vocabulary related to meetings, emails, and office supplies. If you love cooking, focus on learning words associated with recipes, ingredients, and kitchen tools. The more you immerse yourself in words that are relevant to your world, the easier it will be to recall and use them when you need to speak. 2. Grammar, the structure of your sentences. The next element of building a strong foundation is grammar. Grammar gives structure to your sentences and helps you communicate your ideas clearly. But let's face it, grammar can be overwhelming, especially when there are so many rules and exceptions. The key is not to aim for perfection, but to focus on the basics that will help you get your message across. Let me give you an example. One of the most common mistakes that English learners make is mixing up verb tenses. I remember another student, Ahmed from Egypt, who would always use the present tense, even when talking about the past. He would say, "Yesterday I go to the market," instead of "Yesterday I went to the market." Now, while this mistake didn't stop us from understanding him, it did make his sentences sound awkward. I worked with Ahmed on some simple exercises that focused on practicing past tense verbs. We didn't dive into complex grammar rules. Instead, we just practiced speaking sentences like, "I went," "I saw," and "I did" over and over until it became natural for him. By focusing on small, manageable changes, Ahmed was able to improve his grammar significantly without feeling overwhelmed. 3. Pronunciation, making your words understandable. The third foundational element is pronunciation. Good pronunciation helps others understand you clearly, even if your grammar isn't perfect. Many learners worry about having a strong accent, but the goal isn't to sound like a native speaker, it's to be understandable. One effective method to improve pronunciation is to listen and repeat. Find a podcast, a YouTube channel, or any audio source that you enjoy, and mimic the speaker's intonation and pronunciation. You don't have to copy everything perfectly. Just focus on the sounds and rhythms of the language. The more you practice, the more your pronunciation will improve. Another tip is to record yourself speaking. Play it back and listen carefully. Are there words that sound off? Are there specific sounds that are difficult for you? This practice helps you become aware of your pronunciation and allows you to work on specific areas that need improvement. Strategies to improve speaking skills. Now that we've covered the basics, let's dive into some concrete strategies that will help you speak English more fluently. These techniques are practical, easy to apply, and can be adjusted based on your current level. 1. Speak as much as possible. Practice makes perfect. It may sound simple, but the most effective way to improve your English speaking skills is to speak as much as possible. Think of speaking like exercising a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Look for opportunities to practice, whether it's with friends, language exchange partners, or even by talking to yourself. Take Sarah, for example, a dedicated learner from Spain. Sarah was shy and rarely spoke English outside of her classes. She realized that the key to becoming fluent was to practice daily, so she started talking to herself in English. She would describe her day, talk about what she was cooking, or even narrate her thoughts while walking in the park. This constant practice helped Sarah become more comfortable with speaking, and over time, her fluency improved dramatically. 2. Engage in conversations, quality over quantity. While speaking a lot is important, the quality of your practice also matters. Engaging in meaningful conversations will do more for your English than repeating memorized sentences. Conversations are unpredictable. They require you to think on your feet, respond to questions, and adapt to different topics. If you don't have a speaking partner, consider joining online forums, social media groups, or language exchange apps where you can chat with others who are also learning English. Even speaking for just 10 minutes a day in a real conversation can make a big difference in your speaking skills. 3. Use real-life situations. Apply what you learn. Applying what you've learned in real-life situations is crucial for reinforcing your skills. For instance, if you've been learning vocabulary related to shopping, go out and try using those words in an actual store. Even if you make mistakes, you'll be actively using your English in a real-world context, which helps solidify your learning. A learner named Tom from Thailand once shared his experience with me. He had learned a lot of English in the classroom, but found it hard to speak naturally in real situations. So he started visiting places where he knew English would be spoken, like tourist spots and international restaurants. He forced himself to order food, ask for directions, and even make small talk with strangers. These experiences pushed Tom out of his comfort zone and greatly improved his speaking skills. Overcoming common speaking challenges. Now let's talk about some common speaking challenges and how to overcome them. These challenges are familiar to all English learners, regardless of their level, so let's break them down one by one. 1. Thinking in your native language, the silent blocker. One of the biggest challenges is thinking in your native language before translating into English. This process slows you down and often leads to awkward or incorrect sentences. The goal is to start thinking directly in English, which takes time and practice but is absolutely achievable. A great way to start thinking in English is by labeling things around you in English. For example, if you see a table, think table, not the word in your native language. Gradually expand this practice to your thoughts, daily activities, and internal dialogues. The more you think in English, the more natural it will feel to speak it. 2. Finding the right words, expanding your expressive ability. Another common challenge is finding the right words when you're speaking. You might have a word on the tip of your tongue, but struggle to recall it in the moment. This happens because your active vocabulary, the words you use, is smaller than your passive vocabulary, the words you know but don't use. To overcome this, practice paraphrasing, explaining a word when you can't remember it. For example, if you forget the word umbrella, you might say, the thing you use when it's raining. This keeps the conversation flowing and helps you become more flexible in your speaking. 3. Speaking too fast or too slow. Finding the right pace. Some learners speak too quickly because they're nervous, while others speak too slowly because they're carefully choosing their words. Finding the right pace is essential for clear communication. A good rule of thumb is to pause briefly at the end of each sentence, allowing yourself a moment to gather your thoughts. This will make your speech sound more natural and less rushed. Final thoughts and practical tips. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with some final practical tips that you can start using today to improve your English speaking skills. 1. Be consistent. Make speaking a daily habit. Consistency is key. Even if it's just for 5 minutes a day, make speaking English a part of your daily routine. The more you practice, the more natural it will become. 2. Listen actively. Absorb the rhythm of English. Listening is a powerful tool for improving speaking. Pay attention to how native speakers construct their sentences, their intonation, and their choice of words. The more you listen, the more you'll internalize these patterns. 3. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are your best teachers. Remember, mistakes are not your enemy. They are your guideposts to improvement. Every time you make a mistake, you learn something new. So, embrace them, learn from them, and keep moving forward. That's all for today's session. I hope you found this session useful and that you're feeling inspired to go out and start talking in English. Remember, the journey to fluency is a marathon, not a sprint. So keep practicing, stay consistent, and most importantly, enjoy the process. If you like this session, please like, comment, and subscribe to our English Great Stories channel. Your feedback helps us create content that's tailored to your needs, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep speaking, keep learning, and keep growing. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next session.